Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday night, where we get together and do a little connecting in and creating presence and making art and making some movements. Tonight, we're going to be tapping into the heart again because it is a tender, tender space that needs support. But I want to take a minute to just say a couple things about being in this space. Online can have its own beauty and its caveats that aren't so great. And one of the ways that when you're doing these kind of group things online or in person, that didn't make any sense. This would be online, is to leave your camera on. You don't have to have it at your face. We don't need to see you if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, but leave your camera on and maybe point it to the ceiling or something like that. It helps us all connect in, which sounds kind of funny because this is on a computer, but it's really amazing how connected we could feel in this kind of setting. And really do your best to take in what's offered in this space. And by that, I mean, lean into the energies, lean into the process, and take in as much as you can. With that said, I want to pause a little bit for showing you some of the prompts that I put connected to the the advertisement. And I'm going to show both of them to you. I have one that's more anatomical. Right, shows all the heart. And then I have another one that's more what I call a Valentine. Either one of these is fine to use whenever we're doing this kind of heart work with an art piece. Your choice. And if you don't want to use a prompt, you don't have to either. It really just helps people have a little bit of a structure if they want that, or if it feels like that leads you a little further into being able to take in what's offered and have a little ease in the process. Completely up to you. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit of a different meditation. It's going to be broken down into two different parts. And at the end of each part, I'm going to ask you to turn toward your drawing and to depict what you experienced. You can use, I would recommend using things like oil pastels, colored pencils, markers, something like that. If you're an advanced painter, that could work too, but for most of it, it's a little taxing to use paint. So colored pencils, oil pastels, chalk pastels, and markers would be what I recommend. So leaning into why our tender hearts might need a little support. Life can feel really overwhelming. And I know right now life can feel extra overwhelming for some of us with so many changes and so much that's going on. It's enough when we get bombarded by those things that we feel disconnected from ourselves. Maybe that means we go inward in such a way that we can't reach out for community. Maybe that means we feel dissociative and floating around. Anytime we have this kind of turmoil, that can be a very normal human process for us to experience. Not that we like it. So tonight's meditation and art practice is intended to help us lean into this heart energy and to reconnect not only to ourselves, but to our wider community. So with that in mind, with that as a basis, let yourself get into a position where you can comfortably sit for a little bit of time. If you're sitting in a chair, try to let your spine be erect. Pay attention to if your shoulders are up here like this and let them kind of drop and relax. Let your feet be on the floor underneath you. Let your hands be wherever it feels comfortable. Just a reminder, the intention, I think, for a lot of meditations is that one closes their eyes, which is fine. And if that works for you, great. And if it doesn't, you're welcome to have what's called a soft gaze, where either you look down or you look up, sort of staring at nothing kind of thing, staring through something. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. Just take a minute to settle into this space. And letting the energy of the day that just occurred to dissipate or to settle. And I start with this quote. It's always an act of generosity when we share our heart. So let your attention drop into your heart area. For some, it can be helpful if you hold your hand up on your heart. It really lets us tap into the sensation of movement, the beating of the heart, the movement of the chest with each breath. And the arms are and hands are an extension of the heart. They come from the same area and extend out beyond our chest cavity. And so when you bring your hands or your hand up to your heart, you're completing a circuit of connection, circuit of energy. In this space, in this moment, your job here is as an observer. Let yourself be aware of what's happening without judgment. So, noticing any sensations that you feel in or around your heart. We're not trying to change anything. And let yourself lean into the sensations and explore a little bit. And when you're leaning into those sensations, let yourself bring to mind what you might associate with those sensations you're leaning into. Maybe there's a color that you can pick up on. Maybe there's a texture or a flow of movement. Maybe there's stuckness. There might even be a smell or a sound or a taste that you pick up on here as you're leaning into and observing what's there. Again, you're an observer. Let yourself just be engaged with the energies of the heart, not trying to change them. knowing that all things can be held in the heart. Our heart is big enough and strong enough and generous enough. Just give yourself a couple more seconds, maybe a couple more breaths to observe what you're noticing. And then when you're ready, pause and using the art materials, describe what was happening in the heart. And as much as you can, maybe where it was happening, specifically in the heart. We're going to take a couple minutes to do that. If there was anything like sound, maybe you thought of a certain song. If there was a taste or a smell, if you can depict that with imagery, you can also just write it to the side. No, we don't have a whole lot of time to spend drawing out what you noticed in your heart. You're welcome to add to this after we're done, to do more images of the heart if you'd like. For now, try to come to a stopping place. And when you've come to your stopping place and everybody's not done yet, if it feels right, just step back into some level of mindfulness. Okay, if you haven't finished yet, please finish. And as you're done, come back into the posture that feels comfortable for you. I'll give you all another minute just to come together before we start the next part. Okay. Maybe take a deep breath. Settle into your space again. Letting yourself, with every breath, feel a little deeper in the chair or wherever you're sitting. And I'm going to start this second half of the meditation with another quote. And that quote is, "We can do anything if we don't do it alone." So you might guess from that quote that we're going to focus a little bit of attention this time on reaching out, connecting in, helping us create those pathways when we're feeling isolated. How do we reach out and connect? Your mind's eye, let yourself connect into the earth. Noticing what that feels like. Imagining it happens with ease. And connecting into the earth can be anything from leaning into your feet, the sensations in your feet, or imagining roots, or something like a grounding cord that extends from the end of your spine down into the earth. And as you connect, let yourself be aware of the solidness of the earth being able to hold space for whatever you might need. And with each breath, feel a little more connected, a little more rooted, and maybe even a little more safe with your connection to the earth. Now bring your attention back up to your heart. Imagine for a moment what the energy of your compassion or your love or your desire to connect might look like. Maybe for you, that's a color or texture or movement. The same kinds of things we were just exploring. And as you're identifying these things in your heart, imagine that they're expanding. With each breath, with each exhalation, this energy or this texture or this color is growing and growing outside of the physical boundaries of your body. Letting it encompass the body and fill up the room. And as your energy fills up the room, let it connect you to the things in the room, whether they are living or not. Connect yourself to what it feels like to be in your room in a very held and safe and heartfelt way. And with each beat and breath, let that energy expand out even further, encompassing the whole house, the yard, noticing connections to the outside space. Maybe your dog is outside. Imagine connecting in a very heartfelt and loving way to all the things that are out there. Some blessings to your rose bushes, and the leaves on the trees, and the rocks in your yard. And imagine, again, with every breath, that it just keeps growing. And with this next breath, let it connect you to the city or village you live in. feeling the energy of the people in your community, feeling part of the community. And in this next breath, let it go bigger. Maybe it envelops the country. Leaning into all the things that you would encounter, that you and your energy are connecting into in this moment. And then imagine it even getting bigger. Going across oceans, across continents, connecting to people and places, other countries, other foods, the energies of everyone in this world that we share with. Now let your mind's eye see the whole world surrounded by this texture or this color that's coming from your heart. Let yourself bring in the awareness that you're connected to everything, everyone in the rest of this world. Your breath, the air you breathe, is the same air that's come over the tops of the Andes, that's flown across oceans, that's swirled around other continents. You're standing on ground, sitting on ground that your ancestors or humans before us, animals and plants before us have been on before we've been here. Lean into that deep connection. And in this greater connection, remember to lean into the sensation of being grounded, connected and grounded and expanding. Take a minute to check in with your heart again. As we did before, just pay attention to what's there now. Notice any changes or additions that have happened since you've been connecting outside of yourself with the energy of your heart. Remembering this intrinsic nature, this intrinsic truth that we are not isolated, that we have the opportunity to connect. Pay attention again to things like colors or textures, movements, sounds that you notice now when you're observing. And let yourself stay here as long as your inner wisdom guides you. And when you're ready, Maybe after a few breaths, bring your attention back to the room and use your art materials to add the changes that you noticed after the second part of our meditation. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And again, know that you are welcome to work on this more after we're done. We'll take a few minutes here while we're in community and show what your heart looks like now. Let yourself start to wind down a little bit. And please come to a stopping place. And if you are already done, take a moment to just write down some words that either depict your experiences or are related to what your imagery looks like. The words help us bring our experiences into something maybe that we can understand a little bit differently. We're taking it from the base of our experience with the world, which is our senses. And we're starting to translate what those senses are. So this color right now, to me, seems to be connected to this feeling. And maybe later, it might seem supportive and helpful for you to pick a couple of those words and do something else creative with them. Maybe you could write some poetry or a short story or do a collage based on the word or more drawing. Those would be some of the ways that you could expand your exploration of this based on what you felt today in this meditation. If you have a journal or you paint or you crochet, these words or these inspirations can also be the basis of something new. What does compassion look like if you were to paint it? It could also be fun to explore your sense of sound. So maybe bringing a word or two out of this or leaning into the bigger picture of your experience tonight. What would the soundtrack for this be? Could be another fun way to just expand not only your experience, but your connection to connection and your own tender heart. Which is never a bad practice. If you have anything to say about your experience, if you want to post pictures or anything, please go to my Expressive Arts Meditation page. There's a link in the advertisement that I sent to you guys, or that you somehow saw and are here now. So please share. This is where we can bring some of that community piece to it. And on that note, I appreciate you all for being here. May you have all you need. And maybe I will see you next time.